Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're totally demystifying the core mechanics of modern ASP.NET Core architecture. If you've ever wondered how a massively scalable backend actually processes information from the exact second a request hits the server to the moment a response is sent back, well, you're in exactly the right place. Let's get right into it.
So, what really happens when an HTTP request hits a .NET Core API? We're going to dive in by mapping out that fascinating journey a single request takes. And hey, we aren't just going to talk about high-level abstract concepts here. No, we're actually looking under the hood to see the exact structural patterns that make this framework such an absolute powerhouse for enterprise development.
Now, just consider the stark contrast between the past and the present. On one side, you've got the legacy .NET framework. It was, heavily Windows-locked, and it definitely favored those big, rigid, monolithic designs. But check out modern .NET Core. It's a completely different beast. It's a fully open-source, cross-platform engine designed from the ground up to be modular and highly optimized for Docker containers. It is literally built for scale.
All right, so here is our roadmap for today. First, the modern .NET engine. Second, the middleware pipeline. Third, dependency injection. And finally, service lifetimes. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the modern .NET engine.
When you're building out scalable microservices, how you define your entry point, your front door, so to speak, really matters. Take a look at a typical controller decorated with the API controller attribute and a route attribute. Listen, this isn't just cosmetic. By simply adding that API controller attribute, you're telling the engine to provide automatic model validation, binding source inference, and just super clean routing behavior right out of the gate. The absolute best part? You don't even have to manually check if the model state is valid anymore. The framework just handles the whole shebang for you, saving you, honestly, countless lines of repetitive boilerplate code.
Moving right along to Section 2, the middleware pipeline. Once your request makes it past the initial routing logic, it hits this sort of assembly line known as the middleware pipeline. Basically, middleware is software assembled directly into your application's pipeline. Think of it like a strict series of checkpoints. As an HTTP request comes flowing in, it has to pass through each and every component. Whether it's logging incoming traffic for your enterprise analytics or validating headers, each piece of middleware gets a chance to perform critical operations before passing the request to the next guy in line. And then it gets another crack at it on the way back out.
Because of how this assembly line works, the sequence of these steps is absolutely crucial. The order you configure them in your startup file matters immensely. Consider the flow: routing, authentication, authorization, endpoints. You absolutely cannot authorize a user to access a sensitive resource before you've actually authenticated who they are, right? If you mix up steps 2 and 3, your pipeline will literally fail securely. The request has to survive this exact sequence.
Let's actually see how this plays out in code. This is exactly the kind of thing you'll see in a standard configuration file. We literally tell the app to use routing, then use authentication, then use authorization, and finally use endpoints. It reads like a book. This sequence directly defines the exact path our HTTP request must traverse. It's elegant, it's highly readable, and it's totally configurable.
Zooming in on that authentication step for a second, in real-world enterprise scenarios, that checkpoint is almost always powered by JSON Web Tokens, or JWTs. When the request hits the auth middleware, the framework uses settings you configured via add JWT-bearer to validate the token. Why does this matter? Well, it ensures your microservice communication and API routes stay completely locked down and highly secure, all without needing to incur the performance hit of querying a database on every single request. It's a real game changer.
And, this perfectly illustrates another harsh enterprise reality. What happens when things go wrong? Well, you place the global exception handler right at the very start of your middleware pipeline. The reason this is so absolutely critical is that it catches any unhandled exceptions that blow up further down the line. Instead of crashing or, worse, leaking highly sensitive stack traces into production, it intercepts the error and returns a clean 500 status code with a safe, generic message. That is Security 101 right there.
Okay. On to Section 3, Dependency Injection.
At this point, our request has survived the security checkpoints and safely reached the controller, which brings us to a massive pillar of modern architecture, dependency injection, or DI. Dependency injection is essentially a design pattern that achieves inversion of control. What does that actually mean? Well, instead of a controller having to manually build its own database tools or logging services from scratch every single time, we invert that responsibility.
The controller doesn't create its dependencies anymore. The framework just hands the controller exactly what it needs to do its job.
Just consider the contrast between these two approaches. In the old days, we suffered from tight coupling. Controllers were constantly instantiating their own dependencies, which turned code bases into rigid monoliths that were practically impossible to test. But by injecting dependencies, we achieve loose coupling. We transform that rigid code into modular plug-and-play components. It makes unit testing an absolute breeze because you can just effortlessly inject mock services right in.
In practice, it looks exactly like this constructor injection snippet. Notice how the controller just casually asks for an interface right in its constructor. It honestly doesn't know or care how that service is actually built under the hood. The .NET Core DI container acts like the ultimate site foreman. It checks its registry, builds the required service, and seamlessly hands it off to the controller the exact second the request arrives.
Finally, Section 4, Service Lifetimes.
So the DI container is building all these tools for us, right? But how long do they actually live in memory before the garbage collector sweeps them away? Let's demystify service lifetimes. There are 3 distinct lifetimes you really have to understand. First, transient. A transient service is built brand new every single time it's requested by any class. Then there's scoped. A scoped service is created exactly once per HTTP request, so every class involved in processing that one specific request shares the exact same instance. And lastly, singleton. Just like it sounds, it creates one single object that is shared globally across the entire application for as long as the app is running.
To put this into a practical context, you've really got to choose wisely. For example, you are almost always going to use the scoped lifetime for things like your Entity Framework DB context. Why? Well, because you want all your database changes tracked consistently within the boundary of a single HTTP request, but you definitely don't want to accidentally leak data across different users' requests. Singletons, on the other hand, are absolutely perfect for application-wide caching or global configuration settings. And transient? Save those for your lightweight, stateless utility services that don't need to hold on to any data.
And that wraps up our explainer. We've traced the incredible journey of a single request through the .NET Core architecture. We saw how the modern engine operates, how the middleware pipeline safely guides the request, how dependency injection elegantly provides the necessary tools, and how service lifetimes efficiently manage memory. So armed with the mechanics of middleware and dependency injection, how will you architect your next enterprise microservice? Thanks for joining me today, and keep building great things.